District PTA. Welcome to our Elections Basics Workshop. My name is Vera Johnson and I am the 33rd District PTA Parliamentarian. Helping me this morning is Marcy Cottrell, our Director of Leadership. This is a short workshop for presidents and parliamentarians where I will be presenting everything you need to know about running a PTA election. If you have a question, please type it into the chat. Marcy will be monitoring the chat and will bring your questions forward at the end of the short presentation. There will be plenty of time for questions at the end. I emailed 3 handouts to all of our registered attendees yesterday, which included the PowerPoint slides, the PTA election checklist from CAPTA, and the script for conducting elections. If you registered after about 4 p.m. yesterday, I will send you the handouts after this workshop. This workshop is being recorded and will be posted to our 33rd District PTA YouTube channel in the near future. So let's get started. The bylaws and standing rules in newer versions list the month and day of your annual association meeting or election meeting. The bylaws also state which officers are elected and who has the right to vote. It is the responsibility of the general membership or association to provide a quorum for the election meeting and to participate actively in the election process. The quorum number is listed in Article 7 in the unit bylaws. If quorum is not met, any business, including an election, cannot take place. Meeting procedures. The president presides over the election with the election of officers listed under new business in the agenda. The president should meet with the parliamentarian before the meeting to review procedures. The CAPTA PTA election checklist and election script in your handouts can be used during your preparations. It's always better to be overly prepared than be scrambling during the meeting. During the meeting, the president asks the parliamentarian to read the parts of the bylaws which pertain to elections. This is in Article 5, and the specific sections are listed in your checklist. The president then asks the chair of the nominating committee to read their report. The chair reads the report and highlights any changes if they are presenting an amended slate. The president rereads the report of the nominating committee and asks each nominee to stand. The president then states, according to our bylaws, nominations from the floor are now in order. For president, list the name, say Sam Smith is nominated. Are there further nominations from the floor? Wait a few moments for a response and then say, seeing none, the nominations for president are closed. The president then goes through each elected position, including any vacant, asking for nominations from the floor. A nomination from the floor requires the member's consent. Election by voice vote. If there is only one candidate for each office, the president then reads the candidates and offices and states, as there are single candidates for each office, we will conduct the elections by voice vote. Are there any objections to this procedure? If there is an objection, a ballot vote must be held. If there are no objections, the president continues saying, all those in favor of electing Sam Smith as president, Judy Garland as executive vice president, etc., going through all the candidates. Say aye. Those against say no. The president then states that the ayes have it and you have elected the following officers. And the president would restate all of the officer positions and the names. The secretary records the election results in the minutes. You may also use the voice vote for the uncontested positions, and you have a ballot vote for those that have 2 or more nominees. Election by ballot. The president should appoint a tellers committee of 3 with 1 as chair before the election, should there be a ballot vote. A nominee for an office may not be involved in the election procedure. However, each nominee may designate a person to observe the ballot count on their behalf. If a member requests a ballot vote for any office, the request must be recognized and the election is held by ballot. A nominee must receive 50% plus 1 of votes cast to win the election. When there are 2 or more nominees for an office, the election must be held by ballot. For in-person meetings, the secretary should have a membership list and eligibility should be checked for each member. A voting card may be distributed to all eligible voters to facilitate the distribution of ballots should the need arise. We will go over the virtual voting procedures in the next slide, by the way. In the event of a controversial election, be sure to enlist the assistance of your council or district PTA. Prior to the vote, the president requests that all eligible to vote rise and be counted. This count determines the number of votes to be tallied. Tellers will distribute, collect, and count the ballots. The president or presiding officer may vote at the same time as other members. The tellers will be instructed that blank ballots are not counted and that illegal ballots are counted to determine the number of votes cast, but are not applied as a vote to or against any nominee. Ballots are illegal and not counted if they are illegible, contain the name of a nominee who is not a member, or if 2 or more ballots are folded together. The tellers committee chair reports the election result in writing. The report should include the number eligible to vote, the number of votes cast, the number needed to elect, which is 50% of votes cast plus 1, the number received by each candidate, and the number of illegal ballots. If one nominee does not receive a majority of votes cast, the process is repeated, starting with the counting of eligible voters. The nominees stay the same unless one of them chooses to withdraw. Unless requested, the president only announces who has been elected to the office. The complete teller's report must be recorded in the minutes. The tellers committee chair makes a motion then to destroy the ballots. It is permissible to have a voice vote for uncontested positions and then ballot votes for those that have 2 or more nominees. And remember, a challenge to the outcome of the election must be made during the election meeting. Virtual meetings and voting. Most units and councils are now back to conducting in-person meetings, but let's review the basic virtual meeting procedures for those that are not there yet. If the election is uncontested, in other words, there is only one candidate for each position, The slate may be elected by voice vote. If the election is contested and there are 2 or more nominees for each office, the unit or council must hold a ballot vote. It is important to ensure that each voting member has advance notice of the election and has access to the technology needed to vote. In Zoom, polls can be set up in advance if the candidate names are known or with placeholders or set up quickly during the meeting. Do this even if you think there is only one candidate, as there could be someone nominated from the floor. Members should register for the election meeting so that their membership can be verified against your membership list prior to the meeting. If you have non-members at your annual meeting, you will need to put them in a breakout room during your election. Preparation and practice is important, especially for your virtual meetings. Don't try to work through bugs during the actual election. It is important to keep detailed minutes of your virtual meeting and the election as proof that it was conducted correctly and fairly.